What is up, Frag fam? Corbin here again from Northwest Scent. So as you guys know, I tend to gravitate towards niche fragrances. I think they make up a majority or the bulk of the videos and the fragrances that I talk about on my channel. But that doesn't mean that I exclude designer fragrances because they have their place as well. Sometimes you just need something that's really easy to wear and mass appealing. So in this video, we're gonna be talking about my top 10 designer fragrances for the summer, this summer 2021. I did already make my niche list, and if you guys missed that, I'll put an iCard above. I shot it about 2 weeks ago, I think, at this point. But again, we're going to be talking about more of the easy to wear fragrances for the summer here in this video. So if you want to hear about this list of my 10 designer fragrances for the summer, please stick around. But first, let's roll that intro. Alright guys, welcome back from the intro. So like I said, this is going to be my top 10 designer fragrances for the summer of 2021. I think I have a pretty solid list of fragrances here. We do have some OGs, stuff that people do talk about, but there's some, I would say, hidden gems in this list as well. So I would definitely stick around and watch the entire video. And speaking of that, let's dive into the first fragrance. Starting us off on the list here at the number 10 spot, it is this fragrance from Authenticity Perfumes. This is the original Authenticity, and I can already see it. People are gonna be like,
that's an indie house, that's not a designer fragrance.
And technically you're right, but for the price, these go for about 39 bucks from the website, and it's for a 50 ml, so it's really good bang for your buck. As far as the ease of wear and then the price combined, I think that I would really classify these as designer fragrances just in the style. Of course, like I said, they are an indie house technically, but I'm putting them here in this list. Now this fragrance, admittedly, and just for full transparency, this was sent to me for review, so I did not pay for this. Additionally, I just tried this recently, so it's not something that I've really been able to test a lot, but I'm putting it here in the list just at the number 10 spot, just because of that. Not saying it's a bad fragrance at all. This is actually my current favorite from the house, and I've tried I think 5 at this point. This one is a really nice fruity kind of citrusy fragrance with a nice woody undertone. So you get grapefruit and then pineapple in here as well. So it's a very, I would say, realistic grapefruit, and it's a little bit tart and citrusy, but you get this juicy sweet pineapple as well, and they work together in harmony. You get this beautiful fruity opening, and then like I said, you get this woody undertone. There's cedar in here and sandalwood, so you get this kind of spicy pepperiness from that, but there's a little bit of this creaminess as well coming from the sandalwood. There are some spices in the mid like rosemary and pepper, and while they're not super detectable and like, you know, prominent, they're not popping out at you, you can kind of tell that there's some kind of spice under there, and it just works in this fragrance absolutely amazing. This is really one you guys should check out from the house. Super easy to wear, but again, something that I haven't really smelled anywhere else except for in this fragrance. So again, my number 10 spot pick, that is this one from Authenticity Perfumes called Authenticity. Okay, so the next fragrance we're going to be talking about, this is one of my most worn cheap fragrances. You can find this at rack stores occasionally, even discounted on discounters. I think it goes for about $40 for the 100 ml. This one is coming from Azzaro. This is Chrome Aqua. And damn, is this a solid fragrance. For the money, this is one of the best bangs for your buck, I would say, just in general. This is certainly one of the best priced fragrances that I have in my collection as far as the wearability and how it actually smells. So amazing bang for your buck in this one. I really dig the grapefruit in here, but there's a lot of greenness going on as well. This isn't just a super aquatic and fruity fragrance. So like I said, you get grapefruit, which is my favorite citrusy note. There are some green notes, like I said. You get basil in here, there's mint, there's even cypress in here, adding a nice kind of coniferous smell to this. You do get some aquatic notes in here as well, so it is kind of watery and sea salty in a way, and there's a little bit of this metallic violet leaf in here as well. This is just a really well blended fresh fragrance, and it is pretty complex for being a fresh fragrance as well. I wouldn't say look at the bottle and like expect it to smell like this. It doesn't really smell super blue to me. Like I said, there is a prominent greenness to this fragrance as well. So it's kind of a fruity green aquatic fragrance with a little bit of this metallic feel. It smells absolutely amazing, pretty unique as well for a designer fragrance, and one you guys should absolutely check out, especially considering the price that it goes for. So again, my number 9 pick coming from the house of Azzaro, this is Chrome Aqua. So the next fragrance we're going to be talking about is admittedly discontinued. However, they did a rerun of this fragrance, I think last year, and so you can find these floating around for under $100, which is a pretty good price considering this house, because you can't find this particular house discounted too often. In this case, the fragrance we're talking about, this is from Armani, and it is Mania. So nothing new. This came out in 2002, and like I said, it got discontinued, but for some reason they did a rerun, and it was pretty affordable there for a time. I actually picked up a few of these when they were going for a pretty good price, and like I said, you can still find these floating around, particularly in the Facebook groups, for a reasonable price. So that's why I have it here in this video. This is a classic kind of citrusy, woody fragrance. You get mandarin orange in here, which is an awesome citrus note. You get a nice little touch of sweetness with mandarin orange usually, but it's also got that brightness and that tartness to it as well. You get a prominent cedar note in here, so it's nice and peppery and woody. There's a clean vetiver in here. It's not off-putting, so if you do not like vetiver, don't like look away or shy away from this fragrance because it's not super prominent. Just adds this nice kind of grassy green touch. Nothing too dirty. And there's a prominent white musk in here as well, so it's a little bit fuzzy, adds this nice base layer to the fragrance. In all, it's not super complex, but this thing just smells fantastic. One thing I can say, it is a pretty sharp fragrance, just the citrus and how it works in here. And I would say probably that musk and the cedar as well, they come across very sharp, not like chemically, that's not what I mean by sharp, but just extremely piercing, kind of cuts through the air in a way. But it smells absolutely fantastic, very, very refreshing. So if you want something like that, something that will almost cool you off just because of how fresh it is, you absolutely need to check out Armani Mania. So again, that was the fragrance here at the number 8 spot. So up here next at the number 7 spot, I have a fragrance that some people probably wouldn't think of as being a summer fragrance. There's actually a flanker in this line. It's an Eau Fraiche flanker, so that would be the traditional pick for a summer list, but I'm not a huge fan of that flanker. I much prefer this one. This is actually my favorite from the line, and this is one of the freshest in this line as well. So we're talking about a fragrance from Hermes. This is Terre de Hermes Eau Intense Vetiver. Now, unlike the last fragrance where I said it has vetiver in it, but if you dislike vetiver, you could probably still enjoy that one. If you dislike vetiver, this is probably not going to be your favorite fragrance just because it is a prominent vetiver, but it is a clean, green, slightly earthy vetiver. Smells absolutely fantastic. This is actually one of the fragrances that really kind of piqued my interest and got me into vetiver in a way, I guess you could say. Very citrusy at the top. You get bergamot in here. There's grapefruit. There's lemon as well. So like I said, it's very fresh and tart and juicy. There is a little bit of a spice in the middle coming from geranium and then Sichuan pepper, but it's not super dark and peppery. It's a very fresh spice. And like I said, the vetiver in here, clean, super wearable, but you have to like vetiver to enjoy this fragrance. A very fresh take on the vetiver style of DNA, one of my favorite vetivers in my collection, and that is my number 7 pick. So again, this is Terre de Hermes Eau Intense Vetiver. So up next here at the number 6 spot, we actually have the only fragrance on this list that has no citruses. However, I think the notes are a little bit deceiving for this fragrance because regardless of that, this thing is super, super fresh. So here at the number 6 spot from the House of Prada, this is L'Homme Low. And there's not even any watery notes in this either. So you get no citruses, no watery notes. You get a very bright neroli and ginger at the top. And that's really what makes this thing very fresh. It is a very, very fresh neroli. I wouldn't say super soapy. You actually get more of the soapiness in this fragrance from the iris, which Prada L'Homme is known for using iris in their fragrances. Very soapy. There's nothing waxy with this one. The ginger here is a touch spicy, but it's really a very fresh and kind of watery ginger, and it's what makes this fragrance very, very fresh compared to the original Prada L'Homme, which I even consider that one fresh as well. But in this fragrance, they've amped up that ginger and it just takes it to the next level. There is some powdery notes they say in this fragrance. I don't find it overly powdery. I think it's fresh, a little bit sweet, a little bit soapy, and just very clean smelling. So not a ton of complexity in this fragrance, but honestly in general, summer fragrances are known to be lighter and more fleeting and less complex. You know, there's less layers to them. It doesn't take away from this fragrance. This thing smells absolutely fantastic. This is my favorite flanker in the Prada L'Homme line, and this is the one you guys should choose for the summer. So again, here at the number 6 spot, from the House of Prada, this is Prada L'Homme. So the next fragrance on this list is coincidentally another iris fragrance. So similar to the previous one we talked about, which was Prada L'Homme Low, this one has a prominent fresh soapy iris in it as well, although this one does go in a different direction than the previous one. So we are talking about Givenchy, and this is Gentleman Cologne. And like I said, you get that same fresh soapy iris in here. This one actually does have citruses in it, so you do get a nice zingy freshness with like a fruity quality, but there's vetiver in here as well. There's actually petitgrain, and petitgrain typically, if that's in a fragrance, I really like it a lot, especially if it's working with some citruses. And in this case, you get ambroxan as well. And I don't really smell a ton of ambroxan per se, but I think it might be used as a longevity booster because this one does perform pretty well considering the scent structure and the type of profile it has. There's also musk in here, which I kind of get. It's not really like animalic or anything like that, but I almost get like a milky quality in a way, almost creamy. I think it works beautifully with that fresh soapy iris and those citruses and those green herbal notes. This is just an amazing, decently long-lasting fresh fragrance. You guys really need to check this one out. I would say decently underrated considering how good this fragrance actually is. And again, this is a really affordable fragrance as well. This is the 100 ml, and I think I paid about $45 for this brand new. So absolutely check this one out. Considering the price, another bang for your buck fragrance. So again, from the house of Givenchy, this is Gentleman Cologne. Okay, so the next fragrance on this list here at the number 4 spot was actually on my top 5 refreshing citrusy designer fragrances video I put out, I think about a week ago at this point, so be sure to go check it out and I'll link it above with an iCard if I remember. Nonetheless, there is of course going to be some overlap between that list and this list just considering the topics, but this one absolutely deserves to be here. So this one is coming from the house of YSL or Yves Saint Laurent. This is Eau Fresh. And man, is this such a pleasant fragrance. Now, in general, I don't really gravitate towards super like tooth-rottingly sweet fragrances. I like some sweetness in my fragrance, but if it's too much, then it's too much. This one, even though the Y line is a very sweet, kind of playful line of fragrances, this one is actually a less sweet and drier take on the DNA, and this is actually the least sweet flanker in the line. So if you don't like the Y line because of the sweetness, you should definitely check this one out because it's a lot tamer. There is still some sweetness, but I think it's very manageable here. And speaking of this fragrance, the notes in it, you get a very, very prominent lemon note, which is very tart and a little bit bitter, but I think it smells amazing. There's actually a creamy pink pepper in here as well. It's kind of a creamy, fresh spiciness. There is sage, which is just what you get in all of the Y fragrances, and there's a couple of other notes, but those are the most dominant to my nose. Again, not an ultra complex fragrance, but it smells really, really nice. I think it's the perfect blend of a little bit of the soapiness, but very fresh citrus with a mild sweetness as well. So just a very pleasant fragrance in general. Super easy to wear. This is a dumb reach fragrance for the summer, and one you guys should really check out. So again, here at the number 4 spot, that is Yves Saint Laurent's Eau Fresh. So the next fragrance we're going to be talking about here at the number 3 spot, this one is actually a little bit of a misnomer, and you'll see what I mean by that here in a second. So this is coming from the house of John Varvatos. This is Artisan Blu. Now, this should really be called Artisan Turquoise, which I know that's stupid and that's kind of a joke, but really this is a blue and green fragrance. So you do get some wateriness to this, although there aren't any sea notes or aquatic notes in this actually, but it is a little bit watery. There are some prominent citruses. You get a ton of bergamot in here. There's a little bit of this bitter orange as well. Mixing with iris, you get this nice soapy quality, but this is very green and herbaceous at the same time. So you get basil in here. There is pine tree, there is lavender. So it's aromatic and green, citrusy, soapy, fresh, a little bit watery. This is a very, very pleasant fragrance. Like, honestly, you guys see I keep smelling it. This thing really does smell fantastic. The performance is not that great, but don't let that deter you, and maybe you get better performance than me. Like I usually say, I generally take scent over longevity, and in this case, I am fine with this fragrance. It is fairly affordable, and it just smells absolutely fantastic. It is really high quality, actually, so even though the price is like $35 for the full bottle, this thing easily smells like a high-end designer fragrance. It just has this nice complexity to it, even though it is very easy to wear. So if you're after something that is good for the summer, but it has this kind of depth to it, it's a little bit green and soapy, you should really look at this one. I think this is a pretty slept-on flanker from the Artisan line. So again, here at the number 3 spot, from the house of John Varvatos, this is Artisan Blu. Okay, so here at the number 2 spot, we have my absolute favorite citrus dominant designer fragrance in my entire collection. So this is coming from the house of Dior. This is Eau Sauvage Cologne. And man, oh man, does this smell so good. Now, I will say there aren't many similarities between the original Eau Sauvage and this one. That one has a very old school feel to it, almost barbershoppy in a way. While this one hints at kind of the herbal side of that fragrance, really that's about where the similarities end. This is, I would say, a standalone fragrance, and honestly, this has more similarities to Dior Homme Cologne, which that fragrance is very popular, and I'm sure most of you guys watching this right now have smelled that fragrance. Well, you need to check out this one because in my opinion, this is better than that fragrance in every aspect. So you get all the citruses from that fragrance, and actually you get more here. You get the bergamot that are in there, but you also get grapefruit and then mandarin orange. And to me, the mandarin orange really takes this to the next level because it is fresh, but it adds a touch of sweetness to this fragrance. So to me, this one is a little bit sweeter than Dior Homme Cologne, but not much. You also get petitgrain in here. which like I said earlier, I love petitgrain. Usually when it's paired with citruses, it adds a nice herbal green, almost soapy side to the fragrance. There's a little bit of vetiver in here as well, but not much. It's really not a vetiver fragrance. I wouldn't call it that. But it adds kind of this woodiness in the background, and you get some florals as well. But to me, it's the petitgrain and the citruses at the top that really stand out with a supporting woodiness from that vetiver. This thing smells absolutely fantastic. Like I said, it's similar to Dior Homme Cologne, but it's a touch sweeter, and there's a little bit of this green depth to this fragrance as well. So if you like that fragrance, but you want something more from it, maybe something that's just a little bit more complex with a touch of sweetness, check this one out. I don't think you guys will be disappointed at all. So again, here at the number 2 spot, this is coming from Dior. This is Eau Sauvage Cologne. And finally, here at the number 1 spot, this is a classic. This isn't really anything new, and I'm sure a lot of you guys have this in your collection, but it absolutely deserves to be here on this list. This is coming from the house of Dolce & Gabbana. This is Light Blue Eau Intense. And I'll be honest, I could see a lot of people putting the new Forever flanker in their lists. That is a really solid fragrance, but I do find this one honestly fresher. I think I still do like this better. I just recently tried Forever. I did a shorts video on it, and I really enjoyed it. I was kind of back and forth between that one and this one, but in the end, thinking about it, I think this does take the cake for me as far as the light blue line. This is a classic, like Italian style cologne, but modernized. So you get a lot of citruses in here. There's grapefruit and mandarin orange, so you get a touch of sweetness. This is absolutely dominated by the seawater note. It is very watery and aquatic, but there is a mineral saltiness to this as well, which for some people, the saltiness actually in this fragrance is a little too much. I don't think it's overbearing or anything. I think it works really well. You get juniper berry in here as well, which adds a kind of clean sharpness to this fragrance, maybe a little bit astringent, but I don't think it's off-putting. I will say this is a very sharp fragrance. So the grapefruit, the salt, and then the juniper berries are all kind of piercing, but I think it smells absolutely fantastic. A classic men's fragrance here at this point. I think this will be making summer list for years and years to come, and it absolutely deserves to be here on mine because I know I will be reaching for this fragrance a lot this summer. So my last pick for this list, coming from the house of Dolce & Gabbana, this is Light Blue Eau Intense. Well, there you guys go. That was my top 10 designer fragrances list for the summer here in 2021. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, or if you found it helpful or useful, I would really appreciate dropping a like just to show your support, and then that way more people can see my videos on YouTube. Additionally, if you want to write a comment, maybe just let me know your thoughts or what you plan on wearing this summer, that would be great too. And since you're down there doing all that stuff, if you have not already, if you could hit the subscribe button and then the bell notification, that would be amazing. That way you stay up to date on new videos whenever they get released going forward. But with all that out of the way, that's all I really have for you guys today. So I hope you have a good one. Stay healthy, stay wealthy, and smell great.